So today we're not only going to go ahead and talk about the top 10 loadouts currently within Warzone, we're also going to give a class setup for every single weapon currently within Warzone that is available to you, because so many times when I do these top 10 loadout videos, people go, well, what about this gun? It's kind of underrated, kind of slept on. We're going to go ahead and cover all of that in today's video. If you enjoy, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new and want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Obviously, there's a lot of factors and there's important things to consider when it comes to loadouts. Overall, perks are generally going to be EOD or cold-blooded because a lot of people are actually running Combat Scout. Those are kind of like the main ones. Some people will run double time, maybe quick fix. There are some weapons that will give you that benefit. When it comes to the second perk, a lot of people go overkill just because you get both of your primary weapons. If you want to go Ghost, which a lot of people do, along with High Alert, which probably the best one because it shows you when somebody's going to shoot you in the back. Restock's pretty cool if you're going to be using any kind of stuns or stims, because then it'll allow you to restock that for obvious reasons. And then last one is usually either going to be Amped, which is probably one of the best ones, but a lot of people like Combat Scout just because it auto pings and it tells where people are. You can see through walls, but that's kind of what it is for perks. In terms of throwing knives are ideal if you play Rebirth or you just want to thirst off your kills. Semtex is still a good way to go. And then for the tactical, Heartbeat Sensor or Stim are probably the main ones, but stuns are pretty effective if you know how to use them. So something I want to show you guys is Warzone Loadouts, and this is a site that actually gives you Warzone loadouts to help build for pretty much all of your Warzone guns, regardless if you want to use the Dragunov, and I don't recommend it, they'll have a loadout for you. And then you have more than 250 loadouts listed below or available in their Discord bot. And then it says our loadouts are consolidated of multiple trustworthy sources, content creators, myself, True Game Data, Iceman Isaac, Immortal, Modern Warzone, so on. And then also Warzone Ranked, which is a site we've also covered along with personal testing and seeing what people use in different Warzone tournaments, whether it's 2v2s or it's the custom private match with basically all 3+ 4KD players in one lobby, and you kind of see what people use because they're not going to use anything that's not going to give them the best advantage, and that's what we'll be able to look at here. And on top of that, they also work with a company called 1v1me, which I also work with, and one of the great things about them is you don't have to actually bet or wager any money, and you can enter these free-to-play tourneys that happen pretty much daily for $200 prize pools. So if you've ever thought about, hey, you know what, I want to see how kind of competitive I could be, definitely check out 1v1me. I do have a link in all of my videos if you're ever considering maybe challenging yourself in a different way because maybe you felt like just regularly going for kills has begun a little stale. So that's a little bit of side note there. So what we can do for this build is we can look for the primary weapon. So this is going to be for medium to long range when they select primary. And then they have this little section where it says other. It's a little bit smaller. I'll zoom in a little bit. And we can see that we have other, and then we also have viable. So we have weapons that are definitely usable, maybe not necessarily the most competitive, AN94, AX50. There are definitely lots of better snipers, Carve 2. You can see all these different builds that they have for pretty much all of these different weapons, which makes it super easy for you. Then we have viable weapons. Some of these are, people could argue that are a little bit better than viable. Some could say that they're trash. It really comes down to preference, but these are the tried and true builds that we have all used for quite a while. If you ever use the Odin, there you go. AS44 got some buffs, so now it is viable. I think it's better as a sniper support. I do have a gameplay going up on my second channel using it as a sniper support, and it is definitely noticeable the buff that it received. It tells you kind of the loadout for that, and we'll go ahead and dig a little bit deeper as you'll see. We have the Volk, the RPD, M1 Grand, Grav. So there's a lot of these off-meta weapons that people generally do not use, but maybe they leveled it up because they were playing Vanguard and they really want to try it out, but it's really not one of those cool videos that most content creators make a video about. This allows you to have those opportunities based off the recommendations of all those different sources and using like the website like we talked about with Warzone Ranked, which gives you your individual stats, but also gives you weapon specific stats. So you can kind of see what is popular in terms of most grabbed, but also what people are using effectively, because the TTKs will be adjusted based off of that. Once you identify what maybe weapons you want to use, this gives you an idea of what should be the meta builds. So now that we got that part so far, then we can take a look at other weapons that we know that probably won't change, but they have multiple builds because they can work in different scenarios. Obviously, the Grau 556 is one of those versatile weapons. Sometimes people opt to have the VOK, sometimes they drop that for attack laser, and sometimes they drop both of those for fully loaded. There is an option over here on the right right, which allows you to see more builds. And that's what we're looking at here. We got a sniper support build, classic growl build, and long range build. And if you want to see the gun in action, you can see somebody using that from season 5 growl. This happens to be a Z-Laner video. And sometimes they have other builds on here to kind of compare, looking for another loadout, and then you can kind of click on one of these other ones that can line up with that. So that's one of the cool parts about this individual site, is it will give you 3 individual loadouts for some weapons, sometimes more, sometimes less. But overall, it gives you the option to kind of see what makes the most sense. You can work your way up here and know that, all right, the meta is this. If you're not using the meta, then you are at a slight disadvantage, sometimes better or worse, depending on how strong the meta is. But you can go over here and go, hey, you know what? I want to use the C58. How would I build this? And then you have the overall build right here. Cooper Carbine is the absolute meta right now because it can be used in pretty much every way, but it's not necessarily overpowered in my opinion at range. It kind of is a little bit weaker, but medium to short range, it's like the XM4 when the XM4 was meta for close. But we got 3 different options here. We got sniper support, close range, long range, and then there's also other sections if you want to do premium features. Modern Warzone made a video about this. But if you want to go, hey, you know what? Let me check out True Game Data's video. Let me check out Spiros. Let me check out Teep. Let me even check out mine. I included in a class setup video when it first got added. Obviously, it has some different changes and buffs, and you can go ahead and check those out as well to see kind of what's different about it if you're not up to date on the patch notes. So I think that's what kind of helps this site tremendously, is it allows you to kind of have a simplified version, kind of what I had hoped for my overall spreadsheet, but it kind of just got out of hand, a little bit complicated, and a website just makes it necessary. And this is something, basically a one-person show. They put it all together using all the information that we talked about. And let's say you decide, hey, you know what, I want to use a specific weapon, then you can go to secondaries, which are kind of act more as a close range weapon. So the primaries are more long range. It should be distinct, you know, there, but I'm sure they'll get around to it when they can, because most of the secondaries aren't necessarily included in this list. So we can go ahead and see here the well gun. Well gun just added, and people are kind of struggling with how to use it. There's 2 different builds. Boom, super easy. You can go ahead and check out my build on it. Oh, I actually have 2 different builds. Or we have the Teep build, and I think there's maybe a Z-Laner one in there as well. So you can kind of see those different builds, choose what makes the most sense for you. If you vibe with one particular content creator's build, maybe try those on a regular. One thing that I've usually tried to attempt with my builds is try to see it from a full perspective of low skill, medium skill, and above average players, so I can kind of figure out what works. And usually I'm right on the money with most of my builds where I say, this is a great build. Most low skill players and average skilled players like it, and then sometimes high skilled players will need to tweak it. Since the vast majority of players are either average or below average, I take care of that bulk, and then usually good players are capable of figuring out those fine adjustments for the last part based off their individual recoil control. Even though I tend to fit in with that group as well, it is what it is, and you kind of figure out what makes the most sense. So not only do we have a loadout for pretty much every scenario, we have it broken down, and we have it so you can pick and choose what makes the most sense for you, and then that just tacks on to whatever your preferences are. If you only want to use Modern Warfare weapons, you can go ahead and tag that in and do only Modern Warfare weapons, and then boom, you can kind of see, all right, how hard is it to use, whatever, and build it that way. So feel free to check them out. Appreciate all the support on the content. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.